Welcome back to ADNAC Accent Coaching. My name is Allison. I just wanted to give some tips for native English speakers who are learning to speak French and don't want to have an English accent on their French. So, in English, we have something called aspiration. In this particular context, it means a puff of air felt at the lips following a P, T, or K sound, or a P, T, or K sound. So that's like Paul, tall, call, like that. So this is a noticeable haptic sensation that you can feel your breath doing this. This is what you need to do to speak English correctly. If you say these words without aspiration, English native speakers are going to hear potentially the voiced stop counterpart of whatever you're trying to say. So if you don't do an aspirated P, it's going to sound like a B. If you don't do an aspirated T, it's going to sound like a D, like in the Dow, right? The Dow, you can find that in the library under the T section or the D section. That's because the first English learners who heard it heard an unaspirated T, and then they thought it was a D. So I always give this example. It's probably people are probably sick of hearing about this example right now, but the Dow is spelled with a D because English learners didn't hear a T when that was an unaspirated T. Okay, so in French, if we think of this aspiration idea, once we go into French, we have to remove it. So if you're an English native speaker and you're saying French words with this aspiration, with this puff of air, it's going to sound wrong to French native speakers. It might not be noticeable to you, but it's going to sound wrong to French native speakers. So I'll give you some examples. I'm going to use the name Paul, for instance. So in English, the name Paul is going to have a puff of aspiration. Paul, Paul, even RuPaul, right? RuPaul, RuPaul. So the P, when it's leading a stressed syllable or when it's in the onset position of a word, is going to have that puff of aspiration. In French, the aspiration is not there. So English speakers might think it sounds a little bit like a B. It's not a B, it's not voiced, but it's an unaspirated P. And since our mind has like an either or kind of perception for these, English speakers, we are going to hear a B when someone does an unaspirated P. So my trick to do aspiration correctly in English, you want to release the air between your throat or your glottis and your lips. There's a seal, and then you break the seal, and that is the aspiration, right? So P, Paul, T, tall, K, call. So that is necessary. You release the pressure between here and here. The air is pressurized, then it's released, and there's just a brief aspiration before voicing comes into play. Now, if we're going to do French, we don't want to have that aspiration at all. So what I want you to do, instead of releasing the air between your throat and your lips for the P sound, you're now going to want to release the air between your teeth and your lips for the P sound, right? So no more P, P. Now we're going to say P, P. So now Paul is, in French, Paul, Paul. It's not ball, but it's not Paul, right? It's something in between. So this is what you kind of have to put yourself into the mind of a native French speaker. What do they need to hear? They need to hear no aspiration on those sounds because it's going to sound weird. And then when English speakers don't hear aspiration, like I said, to them it sounds like a voiced consonant. So it's all relative. So I want you to practice this with me, releasing the air between your teeth and your lips for the name Paul. So Paul, 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 Paul. So let's just go back and forth so we can hear the main differences, okay? Paul, 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 Paul. Now I'm doing the L differently as well because this name in French sounds different. So why don't I just do a speech sound not associated with a name, and then you can hear the aspiration and the no aspiration, okay? Pa, 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 Paul, pa, pa, Paul, Paul, pa, Paul, pa, pa, pa. So this is the type of work you have to do if you're working on your speech. You're going to be somewhere where you're comfortable saying strange sounds, speech sounds out loud, where you're not going to be embarrassed where anyone's going to overhear you, and you're going to want to sit, and you're going to want to feel your throat, feel your air, like look at the evidence of your body moving. We have to situate speech in the body. Speech is embodied. Speech is in the body. There's directions for speech from the brain, but the speech is carried out by movements in your body, your anatomical movements. any change you make in your anatomical movements can lead to a change in speech sounds. So that's why this aspiration thing is something you have to learn and practice. Okay, so if you have questions about English speakers learning French, why don't you leave me any questions and I will try to get to them in my next video. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.